My parents uninvited my kids from Christmas for aesthetic reasons, then showed up demanding money and access anyway. Hi, I'm Ben, 35, and I haven't seen my parents in over a year ever since I told them no. Not no, with an attitude. Not no, with a door slam or a scream. Just a plain, boring, final no. And the next day, they were at my house, furious. But let me back up, because the quiet war in my family didn't start that morning. It just finally showed up on my lawn with gift wrap and guilt. It was a Tuesday in December. Cold enough to see your breath, but warm enough for denial. My mom called around 7:30 p.m. in that brittle, breezy voice she uses when she's already decided something and needs me to agree so she can pretend it's mutual. We're doing Christmas Eve here this year, she said. Sounds good, I said, instantly wary. But, she added, your brother is bringing someone new. Her name's Sydney. She's very particular. I didn't say anything. Because in our family, particular is code for image obsessed. She's minimalist. Mom went on. You know, clean aesthetic, no clutter. We're trying to make a good impression. And we think it's best if the kids don't come. I blinked at the microwave. You mean my kids? They're just a lot, Ben. Loud. Sticky. And Sydney's planning a content shoot. A what? She's got a photographer. For the dinner. A white and gold thing. Very elegant. She just doesn't want reality in the background? I said. Don't be difficult. You know what I mean. Just this once. I stared at the paper snowflake my daughter had taped to the fridge. It was bent, one corner soggy with juice. I said, I understand. And hung up. I didn't scream. I didn't write a dramatic group message. I didn't even text my sister-in-law, who once fed my son marshmallows for dinner and then lectured me about hyperactivity. I just sat there, breathing. The next morning, they showed up. Uninvited. Coats half-sipped. My mom, dad, brother Drew, and the infamous Sydney. No warning. No apology. Just the doorbell and then the four of them on my front porch like an ambush with curated Instagram filters. My daughter saw them first. Grandma! She yelled, running to the door in her sparkly leggings and a jelly-stained hoodie. Sydney's mouth twitched. I opened the door slowly. Everything okay? Drew stepped forward, hands in his pockets, trying to look casual. We just thought we'd talk. In person. Sydney gave me a once-over. Her tone was so flat it squeaked. So, she said, you're the one running the family brand. My daughter was behind me now, whispering about glitter and pancakes. I didn't answer Sydney. I stepped outside, closed the door gently behind me, and looked at the four of them. I said I understood. I told them. Not that I agreed. You made your mother cry, Dad said. She told me my kids weren't welcome because they'd mess up someone's Instagram dinner. Mom's eyes filled. It's not about Instagram. It's about harmony. Harmony doesn't start with exclusion. Drew rolled his eyes. It's just one dinner, man. We're trying to build something here. Sid's working with a few lifestyle brands. You want to use our family Christmas as content? I said. It's not like that. Sydney offered, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. You want me to leave my kids on Christmas Eve so you can get sponsored by a linen company? Sydney blushed. It's actually a Danish ceramicware line. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Then I said, no. They all blinked. Like they'd never heard that word from me before. Like I'd spoken in tongues. Mom tried again. We just want it to be peaceful. Then don't invite photographers to dinner. We need help covering costs. Dad said, quieter. The shoot's not cheap. Are you serious? It's not a lot, Drew added. A couple grand. For the food stylist and the rental tables and… No. Ben, my mom snapped. Be flexible. No. I stepped back inside and shut the door. Behind me, my daughter was arranging strawberries into the shape of a snowman, and my son was wearing a Christmas stocking as a hat. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't missing their Christmas. They were missing mine. The group chat lit up before they even made it back to their SUV. Family immediate named by my mom the same week she started signing her texts. Mom, your biggest fan. After I paid their property tax bill. Drew, bro, chill. It's not that serious. Mom, you were very hurtful. This is a season of togetherness. Sydney, we were trying to include you. You made it weird. Dad, I think an apology would go a long way. Mom again, think of the children. I muted the chat. Then I stood in the kitchen, poured orange juice into mismatched mugs, and watched my son try to climb into the dishwasher. I wasn't angry. Not exactly. What I felt was more like clarity. Like that moment in a meeting when someone finally admits what the problem has been for 6 months. I opened my laptop and went straight to the spreadsheet I kept hidden in plain sight: family support, unpaid. I'd started it 2 years ago, after they forgot to pay me back for the moving truck I booked for Drew. 1,000 here, 500 there. Design work I did for free. A loan for a temporary car repair that ended in a whole new vehicle. The tally was not pretty. I took a breath and opened another tab. Phone plan portal. My parents were on my account, said theirs was getting too expensive. Streaming services. Their emails were linked to 3 of mine. I'd caught my mom trying to log in once while I was mid-movie. She thought pause meant broken. Cloud storage. Where I found an entire folder of Sydney's content day, edits, portraits of her in my mother's living room with vintage filters and my niece's toy blocks hidden behind a faux wool throw. I started the great unraveling. Revoked access. Changed passwords. Removed devices. Flagged every card Drew had stored on my business Amazon account. Yes, business. He'd been ordering ring lights and charging them to me because. You write it off, right? Then I sent a message. Not to the group. Just to my parents. Effective immediately, I'm removing you from all accounts under my name. Please set up your own phone plan, streaming access, and storage. I'm no longer funding events I or my children are not welcome to attend. This is not a punishment. This is a correction. I love you. But I'm done paying to be tolerated. The typing bubbles showed up instantly. Then stopped. Then came one reply. Mom. You're being hostile. This isn't who you are. I replied. You've never met the version of me who has boundaries. And I meant it. Because for 35 years, I've been the backup plan. The built-in bank. The on-call fixer. The family brand looked polished because I was the one sanding the edges until I bled. And now? The sander is unplugged. They came back. Not metaphorically. Not via text or email or guilt-laced voice memo. They came back to my house. Christmas Eve morning. 8:17 a.m. sharp. I was mid-cinnamon roll prep, my daughter was making snow angels in flour, and my son had found a crayon and declared the fridge. Art now. And the doorbell rang. I opened the door, still holding the rolling pin like a weapon. Outside stood the same 4 from earlier: Mom, Dad, Drew, and Sydney, now with matching faux sheep wool jackets like they'd been styled by the same lifestyle blog. I didn't say anything. I just raised my eyebrows. Mom jumped in, voice high and brittle. We're here to make peace. And we brought gifts. Drew held out a wrapped box. The kind that screams. Last-minute drugstore run. Sydney held a manila envelope. It's not money, she said quickly. It's just a proposal. I stepped outside, shut the door behind me again, and crossed my arms. What kind of proposal? She glanced at Drew, who gave her the go-ahead nod like she was presenting to investors. Sydney took a breath. We want to do a holiday collaboration. Sponsored content. A modern family Christmas vibe. Real family. Real stories. But elevated. You mean monetized? It's an opportunity, Drew said, slipping into his faux executive voice. We've got interest from a tabletop brand and a couple lifestyle newsletters. They're looking for authenticity that photographs well. And my kids don't fit that look. It's not personal, Sydney said. It's aesthetic. Ah, I nodded. So not personal, just exclusive. Mom stepped in, holding a small plate. I made lemon bars. Your favorite. They're store-bought, Dad muttered. She shot him a glare. You're asking me to donate my children's absence to your brand, I said slowly. And now you're sweetening the deal with lemon bars and a fake collab? No, Mom snapped. We're trying to include you. You're just making this harder. Let me get this straight, I said. You uninvited my kids. Showed up twice. Asked me for money, then told me I'm ruining the vibe. And now you're offering to let me co-star in a commercial for a product I'll never use at a table I'm not allowed to decorate. Am I missing anything? Drew's jaw tensed. This attitude is why we didn't tell you sooner. My hands tightened around the rolling pin. I'm going to say this once, I said. I'm not contributing to anything that excludes my children. Not emotionally. Not financially. Not photographically. They are my family. If you don't want them, you don't want me. Sydney scoffed. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I'm being a father. I turned to go back inside, but Mom caught my arm. Benjamin. Be reasonable. I looked her in the eye. I've been reasonable for 35 years. Then I went back in, locked the door, and flipped the deadbolt for good measure. That afternoon, I got an email from a brand rep I didn't recognize. It was addressed to Ben Carter, co-creator, Holiday Legacy Series. Attached was a draft sponsorship contract. They'd used photos of my backyard from last year. There was a picture of my daughter in her tinsel crown, a marshmallow in each cheek. My son was in the background, asleep under the tree with a toy dinosaur on his chest. I hadn't posted those. They came from my mom's camera roll. I wrote back one line. You do not have my consent. Remove all media of my children immediately. Then I forwarded the email to a lawyer friend. Just in case. That night, as we hung our paper chain and turned up the volume on a claymation Rudolph that made no sense but all the right sounds, my daughter looked up and said, Is Grandma mad? I paused. She might be. But that's not your job. What's my job? To be exactly who you are, I said, wrapping her in a flowery hug. And to know that's always enough. The ceasefire lasted 12 hours. Then the group chat exploded like overcooked fudge. Mom, you're being cruel. I can't even look at the lemon bars. Dad, Benjamin, you need to think long term. Drew, you tanked a $10,000 brand deal over a tantrum. Sydney, I removed the photo. We were celebrating family. You made it ugly. I ignored all of it. Until 9:13 a.m., when a new email landed in my inbox. Subject, DMC a counter notice received. From Instagram Legal Support. We've received a counterclaim regarding content you requested be removed for copyright violation. The other party asserts ownership and the right to post. Sydney had contested the takedown. She claimed the photo was hers. She said I was trying to weaponize fatherhood to sabotage their creative autonomy. I stared at the screen, breath slow. It wasn't just about a picture anymore. This was theft. Framed as art. Dismissal, dressed up as strategy. I called my lawyer friend, Liam. He didn't even say hello. Just, tell me they didn't file a counter. They did. A pause. Then, okay. Gloves off. By noon, he'd filed a formal copyright assertion on my behalf, attached custody documents and evidence that the images were taken without permission, and initiated a request for a permanent removal across platforms. He even added a clause: any future posting of my children's likeness for promotional use would trigger a defamation review. I Venmo'd him $100 and a pizza emoji. At 3 p.m., the doorbell rang. This time, it was a delivery driver with a floral arrangement so large I thought it might be an apology disguised as a jungle. The card read, Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. Mark Twain. Love, Mom. I laughed out loud. A bitter, surprised sound that startled my son mid-Dino roar. I put the bouquet in the garage. That night, my daughter asked if Santa was still coming to Grandma's house. I told her Santa follows kids, not adults. She grinned and ran off to check the windows for reindeer. I sat alone in the kitchen after they fell asleep, fingers steepled, listening to the dishwasher hum. The emails. The texts. The photo. The quote card apologies. All of it clattered in my head like utensils left loose in a drawer. Then I stood up, walked to the fridge, and printed a new page. In black, bold font I typed, I do not pay to be erased. My kids are not props. Content is not connection. Family is a choice I get to make. I taped it inside the cabinet where we keep the cookie cutters. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Not peace. Just the kind of silence that means someone is building a new angle. And I was right. Because at 9:02 a.m., my dad emailed me a spreadsheet. Subject line, Holiday Expense Breakdown. Attached, a list of purchases for the white and gold dinner. 2 floral arrangements, $385. Specialty lighting rental, $620. Tableware and ceramic props, $1,195. Food stylist fee, $850. Photographer deposit, $1,000. Linens, dishware, travel costs, $450. Total, $4,500. My share, $1,500. Underlined. There was no note. Just the spreadsheet. As if itemizing the absurd somehow made it my responsibility. I replied with a screenshot of my own. The copyright filing. The removal confirmation. And the clause, any future use of minor's likeness requires documented consent. Then I added, my kids aren't content. You used their faces to fund a dinner they weren't welcome to attend. That's not family. That's exploitation. We're done here. 5 minutes later, Drew texted. Bro, seriously? That was our project. You had no right. And then, almost poetically, a follow-up from Sydney. You nuked the vibe. Congrats. I looked at the messages, shook my head, and muted them all. Then I picked up a crayon and helped my daughter draw a lopsided gingerbread dinosaur. Because I'd finally realized something. You don't need to burn bridges. You just stop walking across them. I didn't expect Aunt Mel. She's my mom's older sister, the one who lives 2 hours away, always sends cards on the wrong holiday, and once gave my son a potato for his birthday. Because it has potential. We hadn't spoken in years. Not because of anything bad, just inertia. She called that afternoon. No preamble. Just, I saw the post. I didn't have to ask which one. It had gone up the night before on my mom's Facebook. A picture of the white and gold table. Candles flickering. A caption that read, some people abandon family when it's inconvenient. But real love shows up anyway. 19 likes. 5 comments. One from my cousin Jenna that just said, disgusting. Aunt Mel didn't ask questions. She just said, I'm coming over. Put the kettle on. She arrived an hour later in a cable-knit sweater that looked older than me and a tote bag that said empathy is punk rock. When I opened the door, she didn't say, hello? She said, you look tired. I said, thanks. She brushed past me, plopped down on the couch, and opened her bag. Out came ginger snaps, a crossword puzzle, and a tattered folder labeled just in case. Been through something like this, she said, flipping it open. Except my mother just shunned me instead of weaponizing content. I blinked. Wait, you were the black sheep? Once. For a year. I told your grandparents I wasn't spending Thanksgiving with racists, and somehow I was the problem. She smiled without humor. You're not alone, kid. It hit me like a soft piano chord. I wasn't alone. We talked for an hour. She didn't offer advice. She didn't tell me to make peace. She just asked how the kids were doing, how I was sleeping, and whether I needed a new bun pan because hers never gets used and it deserves better. When she left, she gave my daughter a candy cane and whispered, chaos ages you. Keep your sparkle. My daughter whispered back, Grandma said I was too loud. Mel blinked. Then said, well, your grandma's wrong. And winked. After she left, I realized something strange. My hands weren't shaking. I'd been so tense for days that I hadn't noticed how tight I'd been holding myself. But now, just for a minute, I felt light. I walked to the kitchen and pulled out the envelope Sydney had left on the first visit. I hadn't opened it yet. I did now. Inside was a printed contract branded, bullet-pointed, and extremely optimistic. Proposal, Carter Family Christmas Collab. Value proposition, authentic family with aspirational aesthetic. Monetization targets, $10,000 to $15,000 via partnerships. Usage rights, includes household imagery and select child-friendly branding. Motto release, pre-approved content with veto power granted to Sid and Drew Creative LLC. At the bottom, in all caps, we reserve the right to remove or edit content that damages the brand. I set the envelope on fire in the sink. No metaphor. Just a lighter and a stainless steel basin and a deep, calm inhale. And when the smoke cleared, I felt cleaner. Not healed. Not over it. But less infected. That night, my daughter wore 3 different socks to dinner and declared it a holiday fashion show. My son put cranberries in his milk. I took a picture. Just one. For me. And I didn't post it anywhere. 2 days later, the credit card fraud alert came through. I was mid-lunch, half a grilled cheese, crust stolen by my son, and my phone buzzed with that bland but ominous message. Unusual activity detected on your business account. Vendor, Creative Themes Unlimited. Amount, $349. 00. Time, 2:42 a.m. I knew immediately. Sydney. The name on the receipt matched a storefront that sold curated Canva templates for influencers and lifestyle entrepreneurs. I'd seen the logo before Drew had sent it to me a week prior with the message. "Think we can use these for a quick reel? Might help the vibe." I'd said no. Apparently, they took that as maybe later, with your card. I checked the IP on the purchase via my business dashboard. It pinged from my parents' Wi-Fi. I didn't get angry. I opened a new tab, filled out the fraud report, froze the card, and then wrote one sentence to my dad. "Someone used my card from your house to buy branding materials. Unless you want a legal case this Christmas, fix it immediately." He replied with one word. "Understood." That afternoon, I received a Zelle transfer from Drew. $349. Caption, "Relax." I refunded it. Then I blocked his number. I wasn't playing the balance game anymore. Give me back what you stole, and I'll act like you didn't steal in the first place. I wanted accountability, not reimbursement. Then came the call from the school. I nearly dropped my phone. Apparently, my mom had tried to pick up my daughter early for a Christmas errand. She wasn't on the pickup list. She argued with the office staff. When they refused, she left in tears. The secretary was kind but blunt. "We just thought you should know." She said something about you keeping the kids from their family. I thanked her, hung up, and sat very still. Because this wasn't about dinner anymore. This was an invasion. An escalation. A moment that redefined the line between toxic and dangerous. I messaged my lawyer. Again. We added a clause to the ongoing file. Unauthorized attempts to collect or photograph the children will be considered a breach of privacy and grounds for a protective order. I called the school and added new restrictions. Only me and 2 trusted names on the list. I called my daughter into the kitchen. Kneeled. Said, "Did Grandma say anything weird at school today?" She shrugged. "She just said I'd look cute in gold." That night, I cried in the shower. Not from sadness. Not from anger. From grief. The kind of grief you feel when you realize someone you loved more than they ever deserved will never protect you back. And that protecting your own kids means guarding them from people who once rocked them to sleep. When I got out, I dried off, opened my laptop, and made a new folder. Title: Evidence. I added the spreadsheet, the proposal, the photo takedown emails, the school call log, the fraud alert, a video of my daughter saying, "She said I'd look cute in gold." I didn't plan to use it, but I'd never again be caught off guard. And as I closed the laptop, my son came toddling in with a toy rocket and said, "I made this fly, Daddy." I picked him up and whispered, "You already do?" It was Sydney. Of all people, it was her who broke first. I expected Dad, maybe. Or even Drew, under the weight of a reality he's never once carried on his own. But nope. It was Sydney. The minimalist, the aesthetic overlord, the brand in human form. She showed up unannounced. Again. Sunday afternoon. The kids were finger painting on the porch. My daughter had made a monster with purple teeth. My son was painting his knees. I opened the door, already bracing for a confrontation. But she didn't look hostile. She looked wrecked. Hair in a bun that wasn't sculpted. Beige coat replaced by an actual hoodie. No heels. No makeup. Just Sydney, real and raw, holding her phone like it weighed 10 pounds. "I know I'm not supposed to be here," she said. "Correct. She paused, glancing toward the porch. "They look happy. They are happy." She nodded, slowly. Then, "I didn't know. About the money. About the card. About the school." I didn't answer. Just stepped outside and shut the door behind me, letting the kids splash in their acrylic chaos without adult drama leaking into their air. She swallowed hard. "I thought I was walking into a family with boundaries. Drew said you were intense, but responsible. The grown-up." That got a dry laugh out of me. Responsible. That's what they call you right before they hand you the bill. She looked down. "I just wanted to build something. A brand. A portfolio. Not like this. So you used photos of kids you excluded." She winced. I panicked. The campaign needed warmth. "I remembered that picture of your daughter in the tinsel. It was perfect. Because she's real," I said. "Not curated. Not beige. Just real." Sydney's voice cracked. "I think I forgot how to be that." We stood there in silence, surrounded by the smell of sidewalk chalk and fruit snacks, while my son yelled, "Mud rocket!" and launched a paintbrush into the grass. She sniffed. Drew says I'm soft now. That I let things get to me. You should, I said. That's how you know they matter. She finally met my eyes. I'm not here to beg. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For using them. For pushing you. For trying to polish something that didn't need fixing. That landed. Not fully. Not with ribbons. But it landed. I nodded. Thanks. Also, she added, I cancelled the campaign. Told the brands it was a family misalignment. You won't be hearing from them again. And the money? I Venmo'd Drew and told him to pay you back for the templates. If he doesn't, I will. Personally. A beat passed. Then she pulled something from her bag. A white candle. I squinted. Look, she said quickly. I know it's symbolic. But I thought maybe your daughter could melt it into a crayon. Or smash it with a spoon. Whatever feels most honest. I blinked. Then laughed. Honest is our whole thing now. She smiled small and sincere. I'm leaving Drew, she said finally. It's not just this. It's everything. I thought he wanted partnership. Turns out he wanted payroll. I nodded again, slower this time. I didn't expect to like you, I said. She snorted. Join the club. Then she left. No drama. No angles. Just a woman who'd looked in the mirror and didn't like the edit. That night, I told my daughter she could melt the candle or keep it. She put it on the windowsill and said, let's wait and see what it turns into. Smart kid. It started with a voicemail from Dad. Gravel-voiced. Short. No greetings. Sunday dinner. No photographers. No agenda. Just come. Bring the kids. If anyone talks brand, you have my permission to leave. That last part stopped me cold. Permission to leave. From the man who once called me difficult for skipping a cousin's engagement barbecue to take my daughter to urgent care. I didn't reply right away. I didn't trust it. But then, Saturday night, a second message. This time from Mom. Just 4 words. I want to apologize. No scripture. No passive aggression. No signature scented with martyrdom. Just a sentence. So I told the kids we'd visit Grandma and Grandpa. Just for an hour. My daughter asked if there would be cookies. My son asked if there would be glitter. I said, unknown. We're bringing both, just in case. We showed up at 3:02 p.m. sharp. I parked in the driveway between their sedan and Drew's conspicuous absence. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Until the door opened. Mom stood there in an apron with flour on her nose. Real flour. Not prop dusting. Behind her, the table was set with mismatched plates, paper napkins, and a plastic reindeer with one antler missing. It was the ugliest, most beautiful setup I'd seen in years. No gold. No white linen. No stage garland. Just home. Dad gave me a nod as we walked in, then turned to the kids and said, we miss you. Like he meant it. Like it hurt. Mom crouched to eye level and looked at my daughter. I made a mistake, she said. Not if. Not but. Just I made a mistake. My daughter blinked. Then wrapped her arms around her like the past didn't stand a chance. My son handed her a jelly bean and said, I forgive you. Which was new, because I didn't even know he knew that word. And I just stood there, feeling my shoulders lower by inches. We ate boxed mac and cheese and butter cookies. We drank hot chocolate that was mostly milk. We watched my son chase the dog in circles and my daughter tried to tape a candy cane to the ceiling fan. And no one said a word about branding. Or followers. Or the vibe. Just laughter. And occasionally, a grateful silence. At 4:02 p.m., I stood up and said, we're heading out. Mom opened her mouth, then shut it again. I nodded. Next time, we stay longer. If the peace holds. She smiled. We'll earn it. Drew never showed. Not even a text. Sydney messaged me later that night. He's still in spin mode. Told his followers he skipped for a creative recharge. Meanwhile, he's Googling how to write off a ring light as a mental health expense. I laughed harder than I had in weeks. And when the kids were finally asleep, one on the couch, one on a pile of couch cushions, I pulled out the folded list from the kitchen cabinet and added a new line. Apologies don't fix everything. But they start the clock. And for once, I actually wanted to see where it led. The next week was nothing dramatic. No big declarations. No sudden family reunions. Just quiet, steady change. Mom started texting me photos of things the kids would like. A birdhouse shaped like a taco. A jigsaw puzzle of space dinosaurs. Nothing curated. Nothing filtered. Just stuff that made her laugh. Dad sent me a photo of a handwritten note taped to their fridge. "No is allowed here." It was crooked. Written in ballpoint on the back of an expired coupon. But it hit like scripture. They weren't healed. They were healing. Meanwhile, Drew finally cracked. Not to me, of course not. That would require admitting he'd done something wrong. No, he posted. A 5-slide carousel on Instagram with a gray background and white Arial font like a TED Talk for people who call therapy. Just vibes. Family isn't always about blood. Some people just love control. Protect your energy. Respect isn't given, it's earned. We outgrow people for a reason. Caption: Unapologetic season. The comments were a parade of shallow sympathy. Proud of you, King. Cut the toxicity. Keep shining. I didn't respond. Didn't text. Didn't clap back. Didn't even screenshot it. Because silence, I'd learned, is not surrender. It's a boundary with excellent posture. Sydney, on the other hand, DM'd me the post with one word. Embarrassing. Then, "I'm officially moving out Friday." Left the beige rug. It was Drew's idea anyway. She included a picture of a mini disco ball in her new apartment, and a caption that just said, "Colors. Finally. Progress, one weird reflection at a time." Back home, I started undoing more than digital damage. I reclaimed the garage. Cleared out half-used paint cans, broken ring lights, and a cracked mirror I'd once bought for a family content corner I never built. I found the old Polaroid camera we used before everything had to be edited. My daughter took a picture of the dog mid-sneeze and declared it her art debut. My son stuck one to the fridge with spaghetti sauce on the corner and said, "Look, Daddy. It's real." That night, as I cleaned the kitchen, I opened the cabinet where the list lived. The one with all the lines I added since this started. I reread it. I do not pay to be erased. My kids are not props. Content is not connection. Family is a choice I get to make. Apologies don't fix everything. But they start the clock. Then I picked up the pen and added one more. Love doesn't ask you to shrink. Just as I finished writing, my daughter patted in with her blanket and said, "Can I sleep in your bed? The quiet's too loud." I picked her up, carried her to the room, and lay beside her as the heater clicked on and the world softened. Quiet wasn't scary anymore. It was space. And we had filled it with something honest. The fundraiser email landed in my inbox 3 days later. Subject line: a warm ask from the family. No greeting. Just a PayPal link, a short paragraph, and a list of needs. Goal: $3,000. Purpose: support Drew as he navigates a challenging career pivot. Explanation: following an unexpected personal setback and some unfortunate misunderstanding with corporate sponsors, Drew is refocusing his energy on creative independence. As a family, we believe in second chances and showing up for each other. Anything helps. It was signed. Mom. The first owner? Dad. $150. Second? Aunt Jenna. $75. Third? Sydney. $1 with a memo. For every aesthetic decision I regret. I sat in my office and stared at the screen. They'd made it a campaign. Like Drew's failure was a brand story. Like the people he used were footnotes in a narrative arc about resilience. I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring too fast. She knew. "I'm not giving to this," I said without preamble. "I figured," she replied. "No guilt, just exhaustion." "Why did you send it?" She sighed. He asked. And I said no. "But then your father said maybe if we got the family involved." "No." I told him not to include you. And yet here we are. Silence stretched between us. Then she said something so quietly I almost missed it. "I'm afraid he'll disappear." I leaned back in my chair, eyes closed. "He might," I said. "But that's not your job to prevent anymore." She didn't argue. That alone felt like a miracle. "He doesn't talk to me," she whispered. "I know the feeling," I said. We stayed quiet together for a long time. That night, after the kids fell asleep, I walked through the house picking up abandoned socks, a plastic stegosaurus, a banana peel on the bookshelf, and my son's latest masterpiece, a crayon drawing of a tree that looked like it had teeth. I didn't clean like someone might stop by. I cleaned because it's my space now. Mine and theirs. I'd stopped performing safety and started living in it. At 11:43 p.m., I got a text from an unsaved number. You made your point. Happy? I didn't need to check. Drew. I didn't answer. Because no, I hadn't made a point. I'd made a life. And in the kitchen, taped beside the cabinet with the list, I added one more note, this one handwritten on a sticky. I am not the lesson in someone else's failure arc. I went to bed and dreamed of nothing for the first time in months. A week passed. No more texts from Drew. No new group chats. No GoFundMe reposts. Just a silence that felt less like retreat and more like recalibration. Then Aunt Linda showed up again. Unannounced, of course. She brought two things, a second-hand puzzle with 3 guaranteed missing pieces, and a piece of gossip she swore wasn't gossip. Your mom's been going to therapy, she said, casually dropping a corner piece into place like it was no big deal. I looked up from the floor where my daughter was currently turning puzzle assembly into a competitive sport. What kind of therapy? Real therapy. With a person who charges and everything. She asked me for the name. That took a moment to land. And she went? Twice so far. Said it feels like someone's holding up a mirror she doesn't like. I blinked. Linda smiled. You cracked something open, Ben. Not just in her. In all of us. I didn't know what to say to that. So I handed her a cup of coffee and asked her if she wanted to help make glitter pine cones instead. She did. The following Sunday, Mom invited us over. Just us. No Drew. No photographers. No white tablecloths. No passive-aggressive salad forks. Just an invite that read, "We'll make pancakes. You can bring the glitter. And the chaos. I'll make peace with both." I stared at it for a long time. Then I messaged her back. 1 hour. You mentioned vibes, we walk. She replied with a single emoji. A thumbs up. Which was hilarious because she normally texts like someone narrating a Hallmark script. We went. And it was weird. Not bad. Not painful. Just weird in the way that healing is when you're not used to it yet. There were burnt pancakes and mismatched mugs and my daughter accidentally glittering the dog. No one got mad. Dad asked about my job without asking what it paid. Mom asked my daughter if she wanted to help stir the batter, then let her stir even when the kitchen looked like a snowstorm had passed through. They apologized again. Properly this time. No qualifiers. No tears designed to hijack attention. Just, we treated your children like a distraction. That will never happen again. I watched my kids accept it faster than I could. That's the thing about children. They're built for beginnings. Me, though? I'm learning. Later, when we left, Mom handed me a note. Folded in quarters. Nothing fancy. Just ballpoint on lined paper. Inside. We don't want your money. We want your presence. But only if it's freely given. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. It wasn't absolution. But it was movement. That night, I came home, opened the kitchen cabinet, and reread the list again. I didn't add to it this time. I just sat with it. Let it be what it was. Not a manifesto. Not a threat. Just a reminder. That the people who love you for real never ask you to be smaller than you are. It was my daughter's idea to send Grandma a Valentine's card in March. She'd found red paper in the craft bin, cut it into a lopsided heart, and wrote, "Dear Grandma, I love pancakes and dogs and also your kitchen. Sorry I got glitter on the toaster. Love, me." I asked if she wanted to mail it. She said no. She wanted to hand it like a knight. So the next Sunday, we stopped by no warning. Mom opened the door in socks and a bathrobe, and for the first time in my life, she didn't flinch at the mess. She scooped my daughter into a hug and said, "The glitter finally came off 2 days ago." My daughter beamed like that was a victory. I handed my mom a small container of pancakes we'd made that morning. Lumpy, chaotic, blueberry-stained ones. She said, "I used to think food had to look perfect to be good." I said, "That's because you never tried pancakes shaped like velociraptors." She laughed, and for once it didn't sound tight. Inside, the table was a mess, real clutter. Newspapers, scissors, dog treats, a mug that said "World's Okayest Grandma" in peeling gold letters. And instead of apologizing, she said, "Sit." The kids danced to an off-key Spotify playlist of Disney covers. Dad read a magazine upside down and called it meditation. The dog chewed something I'm choosing to believe wasn't edible. And no one mentioned the past. Or the vibe. Or Drew. I did. Later, when the kids went out back with Grandpa to look for backyard dragons, I asked her, "Have you talked to him?" She nodded. "He called last week. Wanted help paying rent. Said he was still being punished. And I told him I was in therapy now," she said. "And my therapist said enabling isn't love." I stared. She kept folding napkins, not looking up. "He hung up. But he'll call again. And when he does, I'll answer," she said. "But I won't pay." There was something unshakable in her voice. Not cruel. Not cold. Just anchored. I didn't hug her. Didn't give her a medal. I just said, "Good." Later that night back home, I found my daughter taping her glittery Valentine to the fridge. Next to it, she stuck a note of her own. "I like us better now." I didn't cry. But I did take a picture. Not for Instagram. Not for proof. Just for me. For memory. For the version of me that used to believe love had to come after a payment plan and a swallowed tongue. I opened the cabinet again. The list was still there. Unchanged. But the room around it wasn't. The room had softened. Warmed. Held. The next invitation came from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Uncle Ron. Known in our family for three things: grilling things no one asked for, quoting Stoic philosophers at children's birthday parties, and being quietly neutral in all family feuds since 1987. The text read, "Family picnic. Saturday. Low drama, low sodium. Bring the kids. No pressure." I laughed. Out loud. Then I texted back, "Who's invited?" He replied within seconds, "You. The kids. And Mel. Maybe Linda. Possibly a raccoon. Definitely not Drew unless he brings a written apology and a side dish." We went. It was held at a tired but dignified park on the edge of town, the kind with concrete picnic tables and a splash pad that hasn't worked since Obama's first term. Aunt Mel brought cookies shaped like boots. Uncle Ron grilled exactly 4 hot dogs and said, "Excess is for cowards." Aunt Linda made iced tea so strong I'm pretty sure it counted as medication. My kids ran wild. No one commented on their volume. No one adjusted their outfits. No one asked for photos. They just were. Halfway through, Aunt Linda sat beside me on the bench, passed me a paper plate with a single pickle on it, and said, "You're different now. Less exhausted? More rooted. Like your body finally knows it has a house to live in." I didn't know what to say to that. So I bit the pickle and let the vinegar do the talking. Then, from across the grass, I heard my daughter shout, "Grandma taught me that!" I looked up. Mom was helping her tie a garbage bag around her waist like a superhero cape. My son was wearing a bowl on his head like a helmet. The dog we do not own had somehow returned, possibly summoned by chaos itself. No one was filming. No one posed. It was just messy joy, with no caption required. I walked over. Stood beside Mom. She didn't say anything for a while. Just help tie knots, adjust imaginary swords, referee a dispute over which stick was the official dragon stick. Then, without looking at me, she said, "I think we made something better." I didn't ask what we meant. Her and me? Her and the kids? Her and the version of herself she was finally unlearning? Maybe all of it. She looked at me then. "Are you okay?" I thought about it. About bank statements and ignored voicemails. About stolen photos and GoFundMe links. About burnt bridges, rebuilt boundaries, and the slow ache of letting someone you love deal with their own consequences. I said, "I think I'm becoming okay." She nodded. That night, back home, my daughter made a new sign for the cabinet. She insisted on using glitter glue even though it was bedtime and the kitchen already looked like a unicorn exploded. She taped it beside the list and read it out loud in her most serious voice. "No one gets to make us small. We're the big kind." I kissed her forehead and said, "That's going on the fridge forever." She smiled. "Okay. But can we move the fridge?" "Why?" "So I can see the sign better." Smart kid. It was Easter when Drew finally texted again. Not an apology. Not a question. Just a link. His new content channel. Rebranded. Minimalist. Pseudo-spiritual captions and a tagline that read, "Letting go of what weighs you down." I didn't click it. I just stood in the backyard, paper cup of lemonade in hand, watching my daughter teach my son how to prance like a horse but serious. They were both in pajamas. It was 3 p.m. I'd stopped measuring life in shoulds. Stopped checking for approval in rooms that only loved me when I made myself smaller. Later that day, I opened my laptop and printed the final version of the list. No edits. Just clarity. I taped it to the back of the front door eye level. I don't pay to be tolerated. My kids are not optional. No is not hostility. Family is what you do, not what you demand. Love never requires shrinking. We are the big kind. Then I added one more line, just for me. I am not your mirror. I am a window. If you want to see yourself, look elsewhere. The house hummed with cartoons and laughter and burnt toast. Outside, the world kept spinning. Inside, we were finally still. Not perfect. Not aesthetic. But real. And real, I've learned, doesn't need an audience. Just room. And we've got that now. We're home.